I was thinking about how do I start this off, and I'm like, let's talk about your childhood. But I was thinking more like, what did they put in the water at your home? Was there something special about what your parents did?
You would love my parents if you met them. They're, just very typical kind of Brooklyn-born, New York Jewish parents. The one thing I will say about my childhood, though, is that both my parents are doctors, and I think it would have been very easy for them to encourage their children to go into medicine. That's what they knew. My dad's dental office was in our house. So I always knew that it was his dream that one of his children would take it over, but to their credit, they never once pushed any of us into medicine. I think somewhere inside they knew that the careers that we would have didn't even exist yet.
Why do you say that? That's interesting.
When I think about the careers even that my own children will have, they probably, it's going to be things with AI and robotics and machine learning and things that we don't even know could be careers. And I think somewhere deep down, my parents both knew that, even though it would have been so easy for them to encourage us to go into medicine. And I think that was a huge thing that they did for us, leaving us open for that curiosity, because I can see Mark did some pretty great things.
What did you want to be when you grew up? What did Mark want to be when he grew up?
I always loved theater and music. I wanted to sing on Broadway. It was my life passion. I sang opera, I did theater my entire childhood. Up until I got rejected from the music major at college and had to have my first entrepreneurial pivot, if you will. But that was, my whole passion. Mark, he was always talented at a lot of things. I think he really developed a passion for computers and for writing code really early on. He always was building games and building little things and testing things out. So you could definitely tell really early on that he was definitely going to be some kind of a creative, inventing genius.
What was your relationship with Mark growing up? What were you as siblings?
There was a lot of Nintendo, many hours of Nintendo. Mario Karts was the Nintendo game of choice. One of the funniest memories that I have with Mark and I growing up is our mom was really nervous about Y2K. Everyone thought that the world was going to end and computers were going to somehow explode. And so at the countdown to New Year's Eve that year, we snuck into the back of the house and cut the circuit breaker at midnight, which is so mean, but so awesome. And we were super grounded for a really long time, but I would still go back and do it again. It was worth it.
And so what was your mom's reaction?
Screaming, just screaming, Y2K is happening, all the electronics went out. So I still think that might have been our greatest prank of all time.
I know that Mark talked in particular about your mom and how strong she was. How much did she motivate you guys? Was there a kind of a special connection there?
I definitely always had a very special connection with my mom. Even to this day, she's one of my best friends. She made some pretty tough decisions with her life. She had, 2 young children while she was in medical school. She was balancing being a mom of 4 children and going and finishing her residency and grappling with a lot of that. And so for me, I always really looked up to her and she was kind of my beacon of, you can have it all. You just have to focus at any given time of your life. And I'm so lucky that we had such a strong female role model in our life.
Do you have any memories that stick out? That just really defines childhood at the Zuckerbergs.
We were always making these very creative projects, which we thought were masterpieces at the time. And then, when you go back and look at them, they're very clearly projects children make. But the one that I still have sitting on my bookshelf to this day is a video called The Star Wars Trilogy. And we were so into Star Wars, we were that super geeky, nerdy household, and we decided we were going to create our own Star Wars trilogy, but a parody version called The Trilogy. And, of course, I wrote and directed and filmed the entire thing. Mark played Luke Skywalker. His voice hadn't even changed yet. Our 2 little sisters, who were too young to have lines, just sat in a garbage can and beeped and walked around. And we thought it was just a cinematic masterpiece. We were so proud. We worked on it for weeks, if not months. So I think that really embodies what the spirit was in our household. We were always up to something creative. We were always inventing, we were always collaborating, we were always looking for any technology we could find and using it to just, create something bigger.
What role did tech play in this?
I mean, everything was tech in that. We had one of those giant camcorders that, I mean, I don't even know if I could lift it up today. You know, we're printing things out on the printers with the, you know, the spools on the edge and the perforated edges and printing out our scripts. But we, you know, we were trying to do all of these things. We had these toys that, you know, with voice changers and just trying to kind of MacGyver together anything we could. And I think that was so indicative of our childhood. If you look back, like we were always filming things, writing songs, just trying anything, any creative mode that we could invent something with, we were doing.
It was just a creative household. Where did Mark fall in that?
Mark was definitely, he was always the one who was thinking about, okay, well, we could get Darth Vader's voice to sound more Vader-like if I kind of hacked this toy that we have to do this, and, you know, maybe we could film in this way. And I was always the one that was like writing the lines and like thinking about what music and effects and things like that. So it was, you know, it's fun when I look back on it because even our personalities and the job roles that we ended up having later on in life, like we're so defined even as middle school students making those videos.
In what sense?
I think, you know, for me, I've always just loved, you know, the act of being involved with the theater, of creating things and putting them out into the world in an artistic way and seeing everything around me as media. I've always seen everything, whether it was, you know, a little camera that I could pick up or anything, everything's always been media. I think with Mark, he was always looking at the pieces of the puzzle around us and thinking like, how do I make these better? How do I connect things in an interesting way that people haven't done before?
It's interesting because, I mean, and by the way, filming the doc at Facebook in the last, you just hear the word connect the world, the mission, connect, connect, connect. Okay, so take me, I don't know if it's the water, whatever it was, this mission to connect, like how did this play into your childhood? Because that is definitely a mission you hear about nonstop at Facebook.
It's funny because I have to say, I didn't actually have that many outside friends growing up because when you have 3 brothers and sisters, when you have such a big family, you kind of have all of your companions built into your family unit. Like I was just not wanting for that much outside companionship. So who knows, maybe after just spending his entire childhood growing up with 3 sisters, he's like, I just gotta connect with other people.
He was ready for it.
It became his life mission to be like, I gotta like meet other people from.
So tell me, and then you were the first in your family to go to Harvard. Was that your dream at the time? To go to Harvard?
First of all, thank you for bringing up that I graduated from Harvard because, you know, that's like my score 1 in life, you know, that other Zuckerberg didn't graduate from there.
The Zuckerberg in front of me graduated from Harvard, for the record.
That's about it. That's about my only claim to fame. But it was always my dream to go to Harvard. And I have to say that I think I was a very unlikely candidate to go there because I spent so much time working with the theater and singing growing up that I think people just didn't even want me to apply because they didn't want me to get my feelings hurt when I wasn't some like huge, like perfect SAT scoring, student body president. But I actually learned one of my most important life lessons applying to Harvard. They said, you know, we look for people who are well balanced and we look for people who are well lopsided. And I think that was the moment in life at around age 17 applying to college that I realized that it's totally okay to have a passion in life and really go for it and want to be excellent in it, and that the world appreciates that.
What did you study?
I studied psychology. In actuality, I studied a cappella. I was in an a cappella group. It was my entire life, the Harvard Opportunes. And Mark came to every single concert that we ever did. He was, you know, like right there. You know, that's something also about our family growing up, is that my parents really instilled in us the value that we show up for one another. That, you know, even if it's not fun, even if you'd rather be doing something else with your time, if one of your brothers or sisters or someone in the family is doing a concert or getting honored, you go to it. And I think that's something that I didn't even really understand the importance of until I was much older with children of my own.
So did Mark also want to go to, was it his dream also to go to Harvard?
I am not even sure that it was Mark's dream to go to Harvard. He was at Phillips Exeter at the time, and he spent so many of his weekends, because Harvard was closer than going home, he spent so many of his weekends just coming and hanging out with me and my friends at Harvard that I think he was like, well, if I can get in, I might as well go here because I pretty much already am an honorary student here. So I don't know if that was his dream or what, but
he kind of followed in your footsteps. I'll say it. It seems like he kind of followed in your footsteps. The only thing I think people know about Mark in college, which we'll get to kind of a little bit later, is Jesse Eisenberg and The Social Network. So like, as his sister who actually spent time with him in college, what was he like in college?
He was a normal kid. Like, I think, we forget not that many people are thrust into that level of a spotlight of corporate America at such a young age. And so, I think the world has a view of him, but the view that I have of him is like kids playing beer pong, hanging out in college, like just doing really normal things that college kids do. And sometimes I feel sad for him that he doesn't get to, have those moments or, kind of missed out having the rest of the moments like that the rest of us get to have.
They say when you turn famous, everything kind of stands still for a second, right? Like that person you become, it's harder to do the normal people things. It's harder to have those moments. Do you find that now?
I definitely think so because the world wants you to be a certain way. I think there's so much emphasis on young leaders today to be the perfect role model because it seems like there's so many people who are looking up to them and depending on them and looking to them to change the way the world is. And so it's almost like you have no room to be a real person. That's why I treasure so many moments from our childhood and college so much because the Mark I know is a real guy, a real brother, a real friend, and that not many people have gotten to see that.
Do you remember where you were when he told you he wanted to start this thing called Facebook, or I think maybe the Facebook?
I had graduated when he started the Facebook. It's funny, again, sometimes some of the best things that happen to you in life don't actually look that great in the beginning. My first job out of college, I worked for an ad agency called Ogilvy and Mather. And I remember I so desperately wanted to work there. And the only job that they had was in this brand new team called digital marketing. And I was like, fine, I guess I'll take this dead end job in digital marketing so I could get to what I really want to be doing with the celebrities and everything. And when I think back on it, if I hadn't taken that job and gained that expertise and that skill set in digital marketing, I would not have been ready for that phone call from Mark saying, hey, I'm working on this project and I could really use some marketing advice.
So he dropped out. You graduated. Mark dropped out. What did your parents say when he dropped out?
I think my parents definitely had mixed feelings about it. My dad, funny enough, right before each of us went to college, offered each of us the option of going to college or investing in a franchise and running it.
What?
So he's like, do you want to go to college or do you want to buy a McDonald's franchise? Because he's like, you could either have a business or have your college education, so you decide what is more valuable to you in your life. So I actually think my parents were very progressive thinking about entrepreneurship a long time ago. I think most other kind of traditional Jewish parents would have panicked when Mark said he was starting a company, but I think they were like, okay, you probably should have taken the McDonald's franchise money if you wanted a business, but okay, this might be a second good choice. I think that to my parents' credit, they really just were very open with a lot of us living my dreams. I mean, I told my parents that I wanted to be an actress and sing on Broadway. And they were kind of like, well, I don't know why you want to go to Harvard then. Do you want to just go to New York and try to do that? So I think, they really wanted all of us to live our passion. That being said, I'm sure there's something in the back of their head where they're like, oh my gosh, my kid got into Harvard, he's dropping out, this is the end of the universe.
Take a step back, so you got the call, it was a call, or however it was, Mark decided at some point you should come join Facebook. What was the thinking at the time?
What I hope, reading between the lines, that he was thinking was Randy, I'd really like if you would work with me. I think what came out of his mouth was more like,